So in terms of Yom Teruah, now the main things that I think are really important to bear in mind is that it is a Sabbath. That's the first thing. It's a special Sabbath, and I try and think about these Sabbaths as being bank holidays.
Yeah.
They're the Father's bank holiday, and in the sense that keeping these special days for me personally has helped me understand what Sabbath is really about. You know how the Messiah says Sabbath wasn't was it? Man wasn't made for the Sabbath, Sabbath not for the man, yeah? So this for the man's use of the Sabbath, yeah? Yeah? It's not the other way around. The Sabbath doesn't command what the man does, yeah? And so in the context of these special Sabbaths, it has made me over the years realize that because I'm not, as a normal Sabbath, getting dressed, getting my tie on, putting my good shoes on, getting the kids out, make sure you got this, make sure that, rushing out of the house, driving down to get there on time at 10 o'clock to engage in church, right? Which is our overarching view of what Shabbat was like. Well, on these special days, there weren't no church happening. There was no rushing out the house. There was peace. There was quietness. There was rest. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is Shabbat. Like, this is Sabbath. And I realized what Sabbath was about. Wonderful. So it's a bank holiday. And of course, on each of these Sabbath days, there's a little certain things you got to do. You know, I mean, it's just a holy convocation. Well, how long do you need to have a holy conversation? You don't have it for a whole day. You have it for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, however long it runs. Yeah. And you have food, you have fellowship. Yeah. And you do the things that are ascribed to the day. So for Yom Teruah, it's also to sing lots of songs and to shout and to have praise and to blow the shofar and have food and enjoy each other and enjoy the Father, in a wonderful celebration. Yeah. With an important spiritual lesson within it. Yeah. So that's the first thing. And then, as I've also mentioned, as we've learned, it's also about this teruah, or the blowing, this loud shout, sound, blowing, sound, alarm. Yeah. That's what it's about. Yeah. To symbolize these things, and finally to come together to fellowship.
Nicholas.
Yeah.
Today I was doing some reading.
Yes,
and
please.
It was about we are commanded to keep the Father's Sabbaths.
Yes, go on. Yeah, carry on, please.
With an S on it.
Yes, go on. Yeah. Do you know, expand on that?
Which made me think about all of these days.
Right, got you. To keep the Sabbath.
It doesn't say keep the Sabbath; it says to keep His Sabbaths.
Oh, right. Where did you read that?
I can't remember. I did so much reading. I kind of scatter.
I know.
Scatter read, but it's in the Bible. I read it today.
Yes. I know you would have. I read the same thing. If someone can do a Bible search at the same time as we're talking, then that could be useful. Just so that we capture scriptures immediately.
It might be in the commandments.
Yeah, there we go. So Exodus 31, verse.
I think it's in the commandments.
Yes, you're right. That absolutely is. It says, "Say to the Israelites, you must observe my Sabbaths. This will be a sign between me and you for the generations to come.
Yeah.
You know that I am Yahuwah who makes you holy."
Yeah.
Great. So the plural. Some
31.
Hello. So some would say, well, no, that's talking about the weekly Sabbath.
No, I don't. It doesn't. It wouldn't make sense for it to say that, because the weekly Sabbath there's only one Sabbath in a week, so that would say keep my Sabbath. But the mere fact it says keep my Sabbaths, not apostrophe, it means that there's more than one.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just throwing I always have to challenge because we have to know how to deal with challenges, right? So, I mean, there's many verses. I did a search just right now on Sabbaths in the NIV Bible, and there's 28 verses in the whole Bible that have Sabbaths in it. And so The better one is here, Ezekiel 45:17. It will be the duty of the prince to provide the burnt offerings, the grain offerings, and the drink offerings at the festivals, the new moons, and the Sabbaths at the appointed festivals of Israel. There you have it. That's exactly what you're talking about. So that proves anyone who wants to say that Sabbath refers just to the weekly Sabbath. That's a verse that says it's about the appointed times. Wonderful. Excellent point. So we're going to put that then into our little thing so that people can have the reference and can go to it if they want. Oopsie.
Ezekiel.
Then the other thing is, the other thing, I'm going to try and soften my voice because my voice sounds horrible when it's recorded.
Your voice sounds fine.
It
Sounds absolutely fine.
Anyway, yeah, I made some notes here. So, yeah, I agree with June. It was a lot to take in. And a couple of, maybe a couple of months ago, I was thinking, I think I asked you about it. I'd like to know when these holy days are. When are these holy days?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it is a lot to take in.
It is.
Also to do with the cycle, the cyclical thing of the 50 years, you know, and then you start all over again. So there's a lot to take in there. I think for me, to understand it, stage one would be to, in a list form, understand throughout the year. And I understand that because we're not using the Gregorian calendar, maybe using the other one. So it's making that an added complication to it because I'm so used to thinking in terms of the Gregorian calendar, which would make it easier for me to see. But if I put myself, I've got to get myself into the mindset of, first of all, understand the concept of the calendar that we should be working with. Then number two, within the context of that, this is how the days fall within that. And then number three would be the 50-year clean out, start all over again. So there's three phases there for me to really understand it. And I would understand it in that order, first of all.
Broken down.
That's the order that I need to understand it in.
Absolutely. I can share from experience. At the end of the day, the how you go from not doing these festivals to acknowledging them is a long-winded process. It takes year on year. I get better and better and better. Yeah, but it takes years. And the reason why it takes years is because we don't have a community that will do it.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you, when I used to go to a Messianic synagogue for a couple of years, because it was just part of the synagogue, you knew every event, and everyone put the thing on. You just bought your little contribution, and then you had the thing, right? You did the festival and the appointed time. And so, because we're not in that structure, we just live our normal lives, and we've never done these things before. It can make it very, very difficult to try and do it well.
But the other thing is, I said one of our relatives belongs to an organization, a group, a faith, a religion. I don't know how you describe it. And they keep the Sabbaths. Do you remember that, June?
Yeah, Jackie.
They're up in North London somewhere, and they keep the Sabbaths.
Okay.
But I was going to say to you that you talk about the 50-year thing, but 50 years starting from when? I mean, you know, that's a bit
I had that
nebulous
question
to me.
I had that question down. Because I like the idea of having a big clear out and everything starts again. It's like so I was thinking, okay, at what point are we now in the 50-year cycle?
Yeah, we could be in the 49th year, we could be in the 10th. I mean,
I've got that written down. 49th year, question mark. What point are we at? What point are we at in the 50-year cycle?
Yeah.
Well, where are we? To be honest with you, I don't know. That's the honest answer. I'm not sure exactly where we are in the cycle. I know it's possible to calculate it, and you can research it. In the context of, I suppose, the feast themselves, the Jubilee is not necessarily relevant to these annual feasts in the sense. We'll as we get to Sukkot, we'll see how it becomes more relevant. But in the context of Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, I suppose the only reason why I put Jubilees in there is because there was an announcement at Yom Kippur every 50 years of the shofar that a Jubilee would happen. Now, you have to also bear in mind that why wouldn't I have that in the forefront of my mind or know it? Again, because we don't live within Israel. We don't live at the time when, as a community, they would have done this. In our economic system and our judicial system, there's no releasing of prisoners every 50 years. There's none of that. So, or cancelling of debts every 50 years, it doesn't exist. That's something that
the Muslims do it, don't they, in their countries?
I don't know what Muslims do. You can tell me. You've lived in Arabic country.
Well, all of this is very similar to theirs in the cycle of there's a particular point at some. Actually, it's within every year where there's it's like a release. Prisoners can be released. People can get atonement. There's a like a fresh start point in every year.
I don't know what they call it in Islam, but certainly Islam acknowledges Torah.
I think it's after the Eid when they say that when they say that it was Ishmael who was taken to the lamb for the lamb to the slaughter, and the father provided the lamb. And I think it's at that point of the year, at that Eid, when all of this happiness happens and prisoners can be released and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
debts can be wiped out.
I know that in the African culture, well, I don't know about everywhere in Africa, but certainly from where Jean-Pierre is from, that there is something like this, but it's not 50 years. I think there is something. I'll ask him so that I don't say the wrong thing, and then I'll let you know. But
the other thing I was going to ask is that while you were talking about the holidays, I Googled up Jewish holidays, and there are 9 of them.
Yeah. And this is what the point that we're going to come to. So this is another complexity that I found as I began doing it, that when you're trying to find references or find information about this thing, you'll be shrouded with Jewish religious Talmudic theology. And so you will find multiple additional feasts and festivals that the Jews keep. Well, you're not a Jew in this modern sense of the word.
Nicholas, on that same point, I was watching a documentary on the those African Jews, what they're called now.
Yeah.
Israelites. The Falashas. And the Falashas did not know anything on this documentary that was discovered. They didn't know anything about 2 of those particular days. They only had the 7 days. They only had the 7 holidays. The 2 other ones are to do with something to do with
yeah, that's right.
What do you call it? The
Talmud.
No, it's to do with when the Nazis, blah blah blah. I think there's some holiday that they keep for that period or something like that.
Right.
And this group of people did not know anything about that. They just kept the 7 days, 7 holidays, 7 feasts, 7 Sabbaths.
Yeah, I'm not aware about any Nazi thing, but certainly in the context of, for example, one great one to mention is Hanukkah. So the festival of Hanukkah is a Jewish holiday. If you read Maccabees, the first few chapters of Maccabees, you'll come to the restoration of the temple that fulfills the prophecy in Daniel 14. And at that time, they take from that time this concept of Hanukkah, where you would have a menorah that has extra 2 candles on it, and so they burn these lights and they give gifts and presents and stuff. It is wholly a made-up feast and festival. It is
maybe it's Hanukkah I'm thinking of then, that these African
perhaps. So Hanukkah occurs in December around the time of Christmas. Sometimes it might fall on Christmas, other time it might not fall on Christmas. But it's just another festival of lights, just like you have Christmas, a festival of lights, and the Indians have their festival of lights. We're not commanded to keep Hanukkah. At that time in Maccabees, they said, let us keep a festival. Let's remember like this time, because the temple has been restored. Like from that context, you can say, well, we acknowledge at this time that the temple was restored. The prophecy of Daniel came to pass after 2,300 evening and mornings, 2,300 days, whole days, complete days, not prophetic years. Then the temple will be restored, and sure enough, it was restored, and that's recorded in the book of Maccabees. So again, that is a wonderful example of how that will be listed amongst their holidays, but it's not something that we're commanded to keep. Of those that we're commanded to keep, I've listed in the presentation. Those are the only 7 that you need to keep or need to acknowledge. The rest you can disregard. So looking at the Yom Teruah, I suppose and I suppose the context of all of these feasts, as you're finding difficulty with it, and there was times when I was trying to get to grips with these things, and I was trying to mark it out in my calendar, my diary, and have the days off and stuff, and sometimes I make mistakes. So when you find out I've got the wrong day off, and I'm at work, and I'm like feeling I'm at work when I know it's the day that I'm supposed to be off. Other times I've just disobeyed it. I know it's the day, but I'm going to work anyway. And in those days I'm like thinking the day's hard, and I'm thinking I'm trying to reflect on the scriptures, and I can't reflect on the day because I'm at work. You can't engage in these days properly whilst being at work. And so I felt like I was lost. I lost out. I felt like I was cheated, sometimes because of disobedience, other times because of a mistake. But then I was just trying to learn to get up with this thing and do it right. And it makes me be reminded of what we learned in the study that we did on Ezekiel, in Second Chronicles, ministry his testimony in Second Chronicles, how they assembled in Jerusalem, and they decided to celebrate the Passover in the second month rather than the first month, and because they weren't able to celebrate it in the first month. And sometimes that's happened in my life in the past, where just because of circumstance, it wasn't able to be acknowledged. But you know what? Well, I made a mistake with the day. You know what? Okay, I missed it the next day because I made a mistake with the calendar. I'm just going to do it the next day. The following day, I'm still going to do it. Yeah. And the Father looks at the honesty of your heart in the same way he did in Hezekiah's day. He accepted their paycheck. The Father would accept your effort to try and follow his Torah. You ain't going to do it perfectly. None of it's going to be perfect. But he just wants you to try and make the effort. So,
Nicholas, I've just found something that might be quite useful.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've just found, hold on a second, the Israelite calendar with all the holy days on.
Yes, I have the link.
I've just sent it to you.
No.
Don't those days change?
Yeah, but it's called the Hebrew rather than the Jewish. It's the Hebrew, Israelite calendar for 2018, 2019.
Yeah, but
so if you go to this here, if you go to that website, you'll be able to have them. This is a church that does it, United Church of God, but they have a really, this is probably the best, easiest calendar I've found. And you can also subscribe to the calendar. You can make it linked to your device, for example, and it will have all the days automatically put into your calendar. But this goes even up to 2026. I mean, you can plan like years and years ahead. So that is quite a useful one to use.
On the moon. Does it not depend on the moon and things like that? So
it's for this year. She's got it for this year. So next year,
2026.
So yes, it does depend on the moon by itself, but you have to bear in mind that our calendar, the Gregorian calendar that we're using at the moment, is cycling on the sun.
Yeah.
Whereas the Father's is cycling on the moon. So that's the only reason why they have the days change on a Gregorian calendar. If you just follow the moon calendar, it'll be very easy to keep this. Very, very easy, because it's always on the 1st, the 10th, and the 15th days of the 7th month, always. Okay, so and in fact, I mean, I have a Hebrew calendar also on my normal calendar, so it shows the Hebrew days, so I can see by the Hebrew calendar and also the Gregorian calendar, and I've got the feast days on it. So now I don't have any excuses. The technology helps keep it reminded. So you can use technology to help you. Okay, so have we labored Yom Teruah enough, or do you want to go into any other details about it, or shall we move on? Yes, we move on. Yeah. Okay. So Yom Kippur then. So you should probably just read what it says in Leviticus. I'll read it. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, also in the 10th day of the 7th month is Yom Kippurim, or Kippur. It shall be a holy assembly unto you, and you shall afflict yourself, or you shall fast on this day, and offer an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. And ye shall do no work on that day, for it is Yom Kippur, to make an atonement for you before Yahuwah Elohim. For whatsoever soul that it be that shall not fast on that same day, they shall be cut off from his people. And whosoever, whichever person that it be who does any work on that day, the same soul should be destroyed from among his people. You should do no manner of any work. It shall be a statute forever throughout all your generations, wherever you live. It shall be unto you a Sabbath rest, and you shall fast on that day. In the 9th day of the month of the evening unto the evening of the 10th day, you shall celebrate the Sabbath. So from the evening to the morning, we should celebrate the Shabbat. And that is very, for me, that is very matter of fact. If you don't fast, you're to be cut off. If you don't rest, you're to be cut off. It is to be a Sabbath. And then he goes down just a Sabbath, but he makes it specific from the evening of the 9th to the evening of the 10th. I mean, it's so important. Like, it's just driven in there. This is Sabbath, and you shall fast. Yeah. Does anyone want to comment about that at all? So that was taken from Vayakra, or Leviticus 23, 26 to 32. So Yom Kippur is a fast day. Yeah. So we can add that into our little mind map. If it'll work. There we go. So it's a fast. And it's a very solemn day. Last year, myself and my family had Yom Kippur, and indeed it's a very solemn day. It's classified as a high holy day, if you like, the Jews. It's a very, very important day. And sure enough, it is. Within the day, experience of it's a tiresome day. Traditionally in a synagogue, they would have, or traditionally in the Jewish synagogue, they would wear all white on the day, like white shoes, white trousers, white everything, and then they would have multiple services or ceremonies throughout the day, and you repeat these like confessions, if you like, Yah, forgive us of this, Yah, forgive us of that, Yah, forgive us of that, and the whole body of people there would ask for forgiveness as a community for the forgiveness of sin, and then it will go on and on and on again. So it's a long day. So in the context of us doing it at home, I think last year we had 2 services. Bearing in mind we've got children, and my eldest did a partial fast by her choice, and myself and Vanessa fasted, and it was a good day. At the end of it, there's celebration because of the breaking of a fast after sunset, and everyone's eating and running, and everyone's happy, everyone's restored, and you're really called to reflect on your life. You're really called into that place of forgiveness and repentance, and so it's a very important day. And again, it's a day that should be done with the community. All of these feasts are not to be done in isolation. They're all to be done together. And so it's better if you can organize to have at least something, even if it's like 2 or 3, but if it can be more, then to be able to do these things together, because you can gain more from it.
It's good if we could come together, but the problem is that not many people share are there yet. They don't actually believe that, so it's difficult. It's difficult to do that at times.
It is, and in Zephaniah 3 verse 8, it says, this is from the CJB, the Complete Jewish Bible. It says, as you can see, I will gather those of yours who grieve over the appointed feast and bear the burden of reproach because they cannot keep them. And so we're living in this age because it was prophesied, that Israel would be what would happen to us. Yeah, we'll be the lowest of the low. We'll scatter around the face of the earth. We won't even know who our God is. We won't even know our name. Yeah, we won't be able to call in His name. Yeah, everything's gonna go. Yeah, but in the end time, we're talking about the end time, or now, this period, this scripture comes to light. Now I understand that scripture, because here I am trying to do the appointed feast, and I'm grieved because of it. Like when I can't do the Feast of Tabernacle properly, yeah, because I can't. Yeah, we can't go to Jerusalem. There ain't no celebration. No one ain't organizing this. It's not happening. We're not living in the community. Yeah, it's just not happening. And so we bear the burden of reproach because we can't keep them. It's prophesied. So you just have to go with it as best you can. You know? So should we move to Sukkot? So Yom Kippur is, as I said, a fast day. And so you have the fast, and it's great, and you go back to working normal life. But really, you have to also be preparing and packing your bags and getting ready to live in temporary dwellings for Sukkot. And in Sukkot, or the tabernacles, it's recorded in Leviticus 23:34 to 36. And also I'm going to read from 39 to 43. So say to the Israelites, on the 15th day of the 7th month. So remember, we had this one on the 1st day of the 7th month, this one on the 10th day of the 7th month, and this one on the 15th day of the 7th month. Is Yahuwah's festival or feast of tabernacles. And it begins and it lasts for 7 days. I said 8 days for a reason early in the presentation, but we'll come to that shortly. The first day is a sacred assembly. So the first day is a Sabbath. Do no regular work. And then for 7 days, present food offerings to Yahuwah. On the 8th day, there it goes, hold a sacred assembly and present a food offering to the Father. And this is to be a special assembly, do no regular work. So beginning with the 15th day of the 7th month, after you've gathered the crops of the land, celebrate the festival. So there it is, it's a celebration, or to celebrate the festival. To Yah for 7 days. The first day is a day of Sabbath rest, and the 8th day is also a day of Sabbath rest. On the first day, you take branches of luxuriant trees, from palms, from willows, and from other leafy trees, and rejoice before Yahuwah your Elohim for 7 days. Celebrate this as a festival to Yahuwah for 7 days each year, and this is to be a lasting ordinance for generations to come, celebrating the 7th month. In that time, live in temporary shelters for 7 days. All native-born Israelites are to live in such shelters, so that descendants will know that I had the Israelites live in temporary shelters when I brought them out of Egypt. I am Yahuwah your Elohim. So with Sukkot, because there's so much content, and we're trying to just get the basics, I'm not going to go into the depth of it, apart from giving you the main. Okay, every year we get to revise these things again. So for Sukkot, what I would like us to concentrate on is specifically the dwelling in temporary dwellings, and also the period of time. So it's a seven-day period, 7 days, and then the 8th day. Yeah. So within that, you have the first day being a Sabbath, and then you have the 8th day being a Sabbath. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that means that between that time, you are living, or should be living, in temporary shelters, or Sukkot shelters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for that time, and so it means then that you can technically go and do what you want to do on the days between these two Sabbaths. But in the context of what this is about, now all of us, well, some of us are maybe still in Seventh Adventist Church. I used to be. When you think about the Seventh Adventist Church, I have something called camp meeting, and everyone goes. That is like Sukkot. That is Sukkot. Yeah. I've never been. Well, I've been maybe as a kid once to camp meeting, but there's lots of people there. There's lots of services. There's lots of learning. There's fellowship. There's joy. There's, you know what I mean? It's like a holiday, isn't it? A whole week.
Yeah.
That is Sukkot. And you live in temporary dwellings. You might live in tent or chalet. That's Sukkot. Yeah. So the Seventh Day Adventists, not only have they taken the Sabbath and originally it rejected the Trinity, they also took a kindness to cook with them, and they called it camp meeting. Okay,
I don't think that was intentional.
and maybe not intentional, but that is an example of it. Yeah.
Mm.
I guess you could go to a hotel. It's temporary.
Why does it have to be temporary accommodation? I don't understand.
So here we go. So what we read in the last part of that verse, in verse 42 of Leviticus 23, it says, "Live in temporary shelters for 7 days. All native-born Israelites that live in such shelters." 43. "So your descendants, will know that I had the Israelites live in temporary shelters when I brought them out." So this is Egypt, spiritual Egypt. Egypt is a representation of a sinful living. Like we live in Egypt now, we call the West or America as like Egypt. Yeah. And so Egypt in the context of Israel, Israelites always wanted to go back. When you read Jeremiah, they always want to go out to Egypt. Why take us out of this place? I want to go out to Egypt where I can have food and have this and have that and have this, and they got all this stuff. Even the Israelites, taken out and a golden calf. Yeah. Moses, where's he gone? He's not here. He's all up in the mountain. He took us out. Let's make this calf to us, the calf that they probably worshipped him back in Egypt. Yeah. Trying to remember what they had in Egypt. Egypt was a central place. I mean, Egypt was an amazing place. I mean, with the pyramids, like amazing. Black people made amazing structures. Their knowledge was off the scale. We can't even understand how they made the pyramids. With their technology, right? So for the Israelites, that was like the metropolis. That was like the place to be. Whenever they had famine, where'd they go? Egypt. Yeah, they went back to Egypt to keep the food, right? So the Father took them out of Egypt and caused them to live in temporary shelters in the wilderness. Yeah, in the wilderness. And so they traversed that wilderness for 40 years before they came to the promised land. Hallelujah. What we did, because what we've done in our house is put up bed sheets in the kitchen. I'm not lying, right? And we made bed sheets and we made them drop down and put it over, and we sleep on the kitchen floor, right? And I'm telling you, in the process when we did that, we didn't do it last year because we couldn't, but the year before that we did it. Oh my word, it was amazing because
I bet it was fun.
It was fun. Like the kids loved it. Like the kids loved it. We slept there as a family. Like it was so good. We ate in it and then we slept in it and then we went to work from it. And that was our place of being, right, as a family. And it was temporary. It felt temporary, but you know what? In that time, it was so strikingly obvious to the children and to myself that we were reflecting on the fact that our place on this earth is temporary and that our salvation is just a little way down the road. Do you understand? Yeah, that's what Sukkot is. It's a tabernacling with the Messiah. Like you're saying thank you at that feast. Yeah, you're saying thank you for Pesach. Yeah, thank you for first fruits, for getting up at the grave. Yeah, you're saying thank you that you gave us your spirit, that we have knowledge now in this day and age. We're saying thank you that you reminded us to repent at Teruah. Thank you, Father, that you repented us of our sin at Yom Kippur, and now we can live with you. Hallelujah! Isn't that amazing?
It is. So June's idea of going to Radisson Blue is blown out of the window there.
Going to where?
Radisson Blue.
Hotel.
It's temporary. The accommodation is temporary.
No, you can't go to Radisson Blue. You can go to, what's that cheap hotel called Travel Max or something?
You can make it. You can put a tent up in the garden.
You can put a tent up in the garden. But I'm not a camper, and I don't know how to make that warm when it's cold in September.
Snuggle up.
Yeah, point is made. Point is made.
Yeah. But you see how it works, and you see that the point is that when you do these feasts, I can explain it off the cuff to you, right? But when you actually do it, that's when it becomes live. Like then you're like, oh my word, and you see like how the Messiah is involved in it all. Like how they dare say that these things have been nailed to the cross. Like show me the scripture that said it's been nailed to the cross, please. Yeah, and I'll chuck it all out. But I'm telling you can't find it. Right? Because these feasts, in a sense, they have been fulfilled spiritually, because we know the Messiah is coming back. Our salvation is set forward, so we know these happen. But in a sense, in the physical sense, the Messiah has come the first time, but we're still waiting for his second. We're waiting for him to fulfill or sit in these feasts, these autumn feasts, yeah? And for that trump to be heard, for us to finally have our redemption, yeah? To finally have our salvation, yeah? The going away of sin forever, yeah? No more sin, yeah? And then to tabernacle with the Messiah for 1,000 years on this earth, as it says in Revelation. And so remember what we said about the one day equaling 1,000 years? Yeah, these are days. There's not evening and morning. So prophetically, a day is like 1,000 years, right? So it represents the 7,000 or 7 millennia, if you like, of the history of this earth. And then you reign the 8th millennia with the Messiah for the 1,000 years. That's what Revelation is talking about. The 8th day, the 8th 1,000, the last final 1,000 years. So when we are in that, I don't know, because we don't know when the Messiah is coming back, do we? No one knows that day or the hour, right? But it's going to happen at some point. And we have the signs of the time that tell us. One thing I could say, whilst I don't know what year it's going to happen, I do see a pattern happening. He came on Pesach. He rose on the first fruit. Yeah, he left just before Shabbat. Might he come when the trump sounds on Yom Kippur? I don't know. Might our redemption happen or judgment day happen on Yom Kippur? I don't know. I'm just postulating. I don't know.
I have a question, Nicholas.
And then we reign in Sukkot. But anyway, go on, carry on. Yeah. What's the question?
Are all these 7 days fast days and feast? Fast and feast?
No. There's no fasting in Sukkot.
No.
So, Sukkot. There's no fasting at all.
Of the 7 days, how many are fast?
None.
Of the seven Sabbaths.
No, none of them. This is the only fast day, Yom Kippur. That's the only fast day of the whole 7 feast.
Right.
Yeah.
How long is that fast?
1 day.
1 day.
Right. So there's only one fast day in all of those special Sabbaths.
One official fast day.
Okay.
You can fast whenever you want to fast, but there's one communal.
Yeah, but I mean in terms of the Sabbaths.
Yeah, there's one communal fast. That's right. In terms of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, there's a kind of fast because you're fasting from the 5 grains. Yeah, so there's a partial fast from all leaven.
Which one is that?
That's the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Which one is that on the screen there?
Oh, it's not on the screen. That's back in the spring feast. Sorry, I'm confusing you. Sorry. So I'm just talking about the whole 7 feasts together. We're only dealing with these 3 in this talk. But if you go back into April time, and you had the Passover, and then you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, that one is kind of like a fast because you're not eating any unleavened bread. You have to abstain from it. Do you understand?
You're not eating any leavened bread.
That's right. So it's a kind of like a fast, a partial fast, if you like.
So why are you only talking about these 3?
Because these 3 are the ones that we need to focus on because they're coming in a few days' time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, in 2 weeks' time. This is 2 weeks on a Monday. 2 weeks on a Monday is Yom Teruah.
Right.
Yeah, and then 9 days after that is Yom Kippur.
What date
and then
is
5
that
days
one?
after that. So the dates we had in the.
What date's the next one?
So the next one is on
15th.
So the
September the 10th?
sorry, no, 1 second. So the first one, the Feast of Trumpets, on the 10th of September.
10th of September.
Oh yeah.
Atonement's the 19th. And then
the other one is 5 days after.
This one is the 19th, as you said,
Just got a
absolutely.
calendar.
The 10th of September is a Sabbath, isn't it?
No, it's a Monday.
Monday.
Oh yeah, it's a Monday. Yeah.
It's on your calendar.
It's day 12 of something. The 10th is day 12 of something.
I know which one she's looking at. She's looking at.
Okay, so here we go. Can you see that on the screen? So Sukkot is the 24th to the 30th of September, and then the 8th day is on the 1st of October. Yeah.
To the 24th to the 30th of September.
That's the 30th. So the 24th in Sukkot is the Sabbath.
I need to look at that calendar you've got because I've downloaded the calendar that I thought might be tying up with what you're talking about. But on this calendar, it's not directly tying up with what you're talking about.
Okay, so Just to clarify.
I don't understand it.
Okay, so, and that's the other confusing thing as well, as another point, is that the dates, because we go evening to morning, but the Gregorian calendar goes midnight to midnight. That's another thing that I found difficult to understand. Like, when does the day begin? Does it begin on the 24th, the sunset of the 24th, or the sunset of the 23rd?
Mm.
You understand? So it's the day before that's quoted. So the sunset of the 23rd to the sunset of the 24th is a Sabbath. And you have to think about it in this concept of Sabbath as in a weekly Sabbath. When do you start that weekly Sabbath for what they call Saturday? You start on the Friday evening. And so any quoted one, you have to start from the day before. So the Sabbath for the 1st of October starts on the 30th of September evening.
It actually says also the evening and the morning.
Yeah.
Is one day.
Is one day, that's right. So the day begins with the evening.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, cool. So I know it's been a lot, but I think it's food for thought and for you to go and find out more. At the end of the day, the stuff to read is all in the Leviticus 23. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
all
great.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it there then. Have a good night. Thank you for.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Thank you so much.
you.
Okay, yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye.